Hi, this is Addison Hart. This is my downtown intervention presentation for Suscom 333. I chose to do my hometown of Franklin for this as I'm reasonably familiar with the downtown districts and I've got some strong opinions on it. So, first, to identify who lives in Franklin, you have two main groups. So, it is a city, however, the town of Franklin, as it prefers to be called, is primarily suburban. So, even though you have a population of over 30,000, it chooses to go by a town, and it's not very densely settled, as in there are apartment buildings, but they're very sparse, and it is mostly single family housing. Franklin also, and these are the people who are living in said apartment buildings as opposed to single family housing, Franklin has a lot of commuters. It is on the last two stops of one of the MBTA commuter lines. So, aside from the families, you have a lot of commuters living in Franklin. So, here are some demographics. As you can see, the population here from Franklin. This is pretty standard for any sort of suburban demographic because you have the middle aged parents and then you have the younger children. So you can see it really peaks around ages 15 to 19. That's when people are in high school. Franklin has a great school system, so a lot of people move there for that. And then you've got age 50 to 54 is where it bulges out again at the top, and that's where the parents are. Franklin is a reasonably educated town. Again, when I saw 56.4%, I thought, okay, some people might get confused. Lots and lots and lots of kids in Franklin. So obviously, high schoolers don't have their bachelor's, so that number is going to be a little low. And Franklin is very car centric. If you'll see over here in the bottom right, the majority of people drive to work alone or they take the train. But primarily, there's not a lot of carpooling. Public transit in Franklin is essentially non-existent unless you're elderly, but that's a presentation for a different time. And so yeah, so car centric, lots of families, and wealthy and highly educated are some of the things why a lot of people move to Franklin. I'm choosing to cover three separate downtown areas for this because they're all very important to Franklin, I think, but they all serve very different purposes. There's actually more. There's more than three commercial centers, which I guess makes sense for such a large town. But we're covering the different downtowns. So for the first downtown, and this is the one all the way to the right, this is the commercial center of Franklin, and it's not labeled as the downtown by the town, but I'm going to go into that in a second. It's got a lot of gas stations, and it's got a lot of big box stores, which will also come up later. Additionally, skip ahead a little bit. It's got apartment housing, which is why I choose to consider this a downtown as well, because it does have residences. It also has some single family housing, sparsely around the edges, but it's primarily got that big dense apartment. It also right next to a McDonald's, the Big Y, and the City Hall. So the pros and cons of this district, it's very green. It's honestly my favorite thing about Franklin is how it looks in the spring and the summer. It's gorgeous. So many trees. They do their green space really well. A lot of grocery stores, so this is good for both the people living in the apartment buildings and everyone else in Franklin, because with such a large population, you are going to need more than one grocery store to service all them. It's close to some housing, not very walkable. I'm going to get to that. The apartments are in the area, and there are sidewalks, which is nice because it's such a big road and it's very car centric. So if there weren't a sidewalk, it would be completely inaccessible. Cons: it's high traffic. The road it's on, very fast. So even if you can walk on the sidewalks, you're not really going to want to because you've got this traffic blazing past you all the time. And these walkable stores have huge parking lots. So even once you make it all the way down the road and then you cross over, and you get to the big box stores, there's no sidewalk to them. You have to run across a giant parking lot. So it really discourages walking. And the apartments in the area, although I would say they are good because they're close to a lot of economic stuff, it means more traffic. The roads are just so busy that it really discourages walking. Now, going back to here for a second, you can see the sidewalks and the apartment building. Where would you walk? You could walk to Big Y, you could walk to the McDonald's, or you could walk to City Hall. It's not very appealing. There isn't a crosswalk near these apartments either, so you have to walk down a while to be able to cross over to the other side of the road because you're not going to jaywalk at any hour of the day in downtown Franklin. Let's see here. How would I improve this area? I would lower the speed limit and I would add crosswalks because this would encourage walkability so much more. My solution, I love saying add a tree belt to everything. I think on such a major arterial road for Franklin, that's just not very feasible right now. I wish I could, but lowering the speed limit would help with walkability and adding additional crosswalks. Again, letting the people in the apartments actually walk to their side of the road. I would consider a bike path, assuming the speed limit is decreased, but that's more of a later area. And again, although it's not technically the downtown, people live here and it's a big economic center, so it's important. I'm gonna talk pretty fast here. Didn't realize we're out of time here. Part two, the actual downtown. Let's skip ahead to this part. Gorgeous, by the way. Franklin does its downtowns really well. We're going to come back to this slide. It's the most walkable part of town by far. You can actually walk here from a lot of places. It's got a lot of restaurants. It's smack dab on top of one of the MBTA stations. It's near the park, the library, the high school, and the college. Lots of parking, lots of green space, and design work to make the downtown beautiful. Again, the downtown is gorgeous. I love it. Cons, aside from the restaurants, there's really no reason to go to downtown Franklin unless you like walking. But in terms of actual economic development, you're not really going to stop at any of the stores. I'm going to go into that later. There's a lot of parking, but it's not very efficient. I'll go into that again later. Again, not much past the restaurants, realizing I typed that twice. It's very underdeveloped. There's some open space, and everything could be a lot more developed to really attract people. But as it is, it's these single story, sometimes two-story buildings, but they only have businesses on the first story. So there's just a lot of wasted potential here. The proximity to the MBTA means that the streets are usually busy. However, the speed limit in downtown Franklin is very low, so the walkability isn't an issue, but it can get very busy at night. So if you're trying to get street parking, good luck, you're not going to. Oh, and the parking lots aren't very hidden, so it does detract from the beauty a little bit. Like the one street that I showed right here, that part's beautiful, but if you go over one, you've got like your 7-Eleven and a big parking lot next to the burrito place. This is a great example of downtown Franklin because you've got restaurants, you've got a pub. The pub gets busy. The restaurant isn't there anymore, but I think it got replaced with something else. And then you've also got a card store, an insurance company, like a fitness place, and a massage. And I've never seen anyone walk in and out of these stores. People don't come off the street to go into these places. They drive there and they use it the street parking because they're intentionally going there. So the downtown doesn't have a lot of draw to really pull people in, and I think it's just one of the largest losing things about the downtown. So again, so the street parking is always full. You want to have 80 to 90%, but you want to have some open spots to encourage people. No one's going to drive through downtown Franklin and be like, oh, there's something that looks cool. We should pull over and see, because they aren't going to be able to, and it's just not worth it. The sidewalks are empty. It's honestly upsetting because it's so close and it's actually reasonably walkable. I like to ding on Franklin's walkability a lot, but it's also just such a big town. You got to take what you can get. I like that it's close to some apartment buildings, and you can walk through the whole downtown and the schools and the parks, and it's really pretty. And so, if anyone actually needs anything, this is again, lots of families are just going to order stuff off Amazon, or they're going to go to the big box stores in other commercial areas, or the nearby mall that's a couple towns over. So a lot of these small businesses just do not attract people driving by, and they are not bringing enough people off the street. So what would I do? It needs a coffee shop really bad. You're right next to the MBTA station, and there is one cafe in Franklin, but it's like $10 to $20. It's so expensive. I asked a commuter, and they said I don't go there as a commuter because it's out of my way. I park in the train lot, and there would not be time to run over, get something, and still make my train. So the MBTA parking lot is big, usually reasonably full. But what I would love to do is take part of it, and I went over this in my earlier, quicker, cheaper alternatives because I really want it. I like this idea a lot. I think turning part of the parking lot into a vendor permitted area could really help, because then you can have people bringing coffee. During the warmer months, you might have food carts, food trucks, sorry, or other sort of farmers market-esque stands. You'd really be able to harness the commuter population then, because these people they're driving straight to the train station and they're going right to Boston, and they're probably getting their coffee there. They're probably buying stuff there. Or they're coming back, going home, resting up after work, and then why would they go back into downtown Franklin when they can drive to the mall or the big box stores or order something off Amazon? So this could help them get off the train. Like, oh, I could go for a coffee. That food truck looks interesting. I like that place that's selling the hand-knitted hats. You could sort of do an extra bit of a farmer's market there. All right. Additionally, downtown Franklin does well at night. I need to clarify that. When the kids are in bed, everyone likes to go to the pubs and the restaurants. The restaurants are solid. I've been to a couple. They're nice. But Franklin does have an issue with the small businesses. Again, a lot of the places I named in that previous thing with the bookstore, that's really new. The restaurant moved somewhere else because it was cheaper. So a lot of these businesses are owned by people who don't need to turn a profit. Like, they're retired and it's just their passion project. So so sometimes you just got to wait things out, which is unfortunate, but it's a truth when you're talking about downtown Franklin. Part three, this is a smaller downtown. It's very close to a suburban neighborhood, several suburban neighborhoods. It is on an arterial road, but it's not as dense or as intense as the one I covered in the first slide. So pros, lots of nightlife. You've got that restaurant that moved, it went here, so I'm covering it. So you got a lot of pizza places. You've got bars. I think two or three that a lot of people actually go to. You will see people on this road. It is away from the main downtown. Again, arterial road. You people coming off the highway going down this road, but there are a lot of brick paved crosswalk, so it really gets people's attention, and you're walking slower. Cons: it's small, you have a lot of vacant lots, and again, since it's so popular, street parking goes quickly. So if you're driving late at night, you're like, man, I could stop for some food. You aren't gonna be able to park. So it really, although it is good because obviously you have a lot of people, but in terms of bringing in outside money, it doesn't do very well with that. What would I do? Underdeveloped lots. I wouldn't say turn them into parking. I think that would be a waste of space. I think, honestly, just putting more stuff for economic development there would be great. And I think offering grants for improving storefronts, because if you can't, deal with the underdeveloped lots, they're just going to stay there and be ugly. So offering grants for improving storefronts, and this could go to the downtown Franklin as well, the actual downtown, the second one that I covered. I think the big box stores don't need grants. Not for improving the storefronts, but for this area, I think improving some of the storefronts, especially if they've aged a little too much, even though you've got your repeat customer base, it could do wonders to attract new people. I would also get rid of some of the street parking and put in parklets. There's enough parking in other places, and you can walk. There, it's very walkable. You can walk from the downtown area, again, number two, to this area, although it's a bit of a stretch, but still is technically walkable. And yeah, I think the parklets would allow for a lot more people to sit outside, and you definitely have to lower the speed limit a little bit because you don't want cars whizzing past you while you're sitting eating your food. But generally, it would attract a lot more people, and yeah, I think parklets are great, and they'd really do wonders for downtown Franklin. Overall, Franklin has a solid base of economics, but very little balance. Again, you've got the big box stores, the downtown that no one really goes to, but has so much potential, and the small area that's good, but since it's so popular, it doesn't really have the availability to handle the large influx of people. Yeah, and that is everything. Thank you so much. I really just went a little over, but I do love talking about Franklin. Thank you.